Okay, Paul's top 10 tips for social media and AOD agencies. I guess go through the basics first. Top 10 would be number 1, obviously, is opening an account. It's obvious, but you don't need to have a fully fledged social media strategy before you open your first account. You don't need to do anything with it, but you should have it ready just for when you are ready to start getting involved. It's also helpful to reserve an account name that suits your organisation, as you would do with registering URLs or things like that. Number 2, get to know the platform that you're looking at. For example, with Twitter, understand the basics like what retweets mean, direct messages, hashtags, those sort of functions, the basic stuff. Number 3, learn about the community. AOD agencies are starting to realise that once you know the basics, social media isn't really that difficult or that complicated. The easiest way to get started is after you've opened your account, follow some people like Regen or some other people who are posting interesting stuff. Watch what they're doing and get a feel for the etiquette of that platform.
Slide 693 to Adelaide.
And just getting to learn some of the cultural things and the etiquette to the platform is important, like acknowledging your sources and Number 3, learn about the community. Already done that one. Number 4, introduce yourself when you're ready. You don't have to launch fully fledged straight into the unknown. You can sit and lurk for a while, and that's perfectly fine. And Twitter's very good for that. When you are ready to post your first tweet or make your first posting, it can be helpful to get people who are already established on that platform to introduce you. And we're certainly happy to do that if you'd like us to help you get started. And it can help attract an initial following as well, which is quite helpful. And generally, social media is a pretty friendly platform. Most social media, people involved in social media are pretty friendly, particularly in our sector, and they will help you. It's not that hard. You just have to ask. Or even if you don't have to ask, if we notice that there's an account formed, we'll quite happily recommend that people have a look at them. See, number 5, be friendly and engaged. As we said, it's generally a friendly environment, and it relies mostly on people's goodwill. There are very few people who are getting paid to do this stuff, so it just relies on people's voluntary time and shared sense of purpose and willingness to contribute. Showing interest in what other people are doing, so engaging with their, what they're posting or sharing it with your own networks. That's a good way to build goodwill in whatever social network platform you're using. And once you're established, follow the procedure. Be welcoming to newcomers. Help them get started. Number 6, be authentic and consistent. That's pretty, again, very basic but pretty important. Don't try too hard. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to be cooler or younger than you are, because you'll end up getting caught out and you'll just look like a goose. Represent your organisation's values effectively. Find your voice. Find a way to do it effectively. And a little bit of humour certainly helps there too. Number 7, think about what people might be interested in, and that may not necessarily what you think is the most interesting thing. And it may not be what you're doing, your organisation is doing at the moment. Think about conversations. Think about what people could be willing to engage with. Don't just be the guy at the barbecue that everyone's avoiding because he only ever talks about himself. Number 8, be responsive. Certainly what we found with our social media accounts is what's really helped to build goodwill is when people see that you respond to criticism or to praise or to queries. Regardless of who they are, we always try and respond as soon as we can. And chances are, unless you say something particularly stupid or offensive, you're not going to draw any significant eye from your target audiences or the wider public. If someone does decide to pick a fight, be assertive and constructive in your engagement with them. Basic clinical practice principles apply here. Treat critical social media contact like you would with any challenging phone call that you would get at your triage service. How you respond to that criticism, it's happening in a public setting, so chances are someone will be watching and someone will see, and it's a very good way to publicly demonstrate how your organisation responds to being challenged. And so you can turn a negative into a positive. Challenging doesn't have to be a bad thing. Okay, number 9, be persistent. Miracles don't happen overnight. What we're really talking about is community development and relationship building. And like any relationship, it takes time to build up. Don't get discouraged if you don't have 1,000 followers within the first couple of months, because it doesn't work like that. What you should really be looking for is organic growth in your follower account. As more and more people become aware of you, see what you're posting, and think that okay, these people are worth following. They're interesting. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't seem like anyone's listening. Some days, even with our accounts, there's tumbleweeds blowing through them. We're putting posts out, but no response. And then other days, you're flooded with people wanting to have a talk to you. So yeah, just be persistent. And lastly, number 10, acknowledge your mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You just acknowledge them, move on, and people will accept that. Okay, 10 things to avoid. Number 1, don't overthink it. It's not that complicated. You get to know the basics of a platform and you work the rest out as you go. Times change, and so do social media platforms. If you spend 6 to 12 months working on a social media strategy, chances are by the time you go to implement it, it'll be out of date. The platform will have changed. The audience may have shifted somewhere else, and all that work has been for nothing. Just get started, and yeah, you'll work it out. Number 2, don't broadcast. I guess this relates to what I was saying before about being the guy at the barbecue. Social media is about conversation. It's about conversation. It's not a one-way. This is what we're doing. Be amazed. If you're not listening to people and responding to them, and visibly responding to people, and being engaged with what other people are saying, chances are they will have stopped listening to you too. If they just want a straight stream of information about your organisation, they can do that at your website. Number 3, it's not all about you. I guess this partly relates to what I was saying a second ago, but social media doesn't just exist for the sole purpose of you helping your organisation achieve its goals, regardless of what they are and how fantastic they might be. It's a community. This means give and take. This includes supporting people who would, organisations that you consider to be your competitors. You should be promoting discussion across our sector, and building support for people who are doing good things, regardless of whether they're our competitors or not. It's just that's the way social media works.